Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Lady Gaga album, Artpop. Lady Gaga is a New York pop music artist. This is her third full-length LP. She has released two before this and an EP by the name of The Fame Monster. And across her handful of releases thus far, she has had some incredibly ubiquitous hits like Bad Romance, as well as Poker Face, Born This Way, but personally, I've never been somebody who has taken Lady Gaga that seriously outside of her singles. Not only that, but I think the album she came out with a few years ago, Born This Way, is easily one of the worst mainstream pop albums to come out in a while. My issue with this record and Lady Gaga in general is that she has this eccentric look and way of dress, these alternative personalities, as well as this political activism edge too. It seems like she's adventurous and experimental with everything except her music, which she keeps incredibly bland and unadventurous. Really, Gaga did the worst thing that I think a pop artist can do to their fans on this record, and that is give us some really great, memorable singles, but then have the rest of the album just be really unenjoyable. Maybe this is less of a sin in the download age when people can just kind of grab the songs they want and don't listen to what they don't want to. But still, after a long, very painful album like this, I can understand that it is easy to count Lady Gaga out. Maybe not just predict her downfall in popularity, but maybe sort of write her off and just expect nothing interesting from her ever for the rest of her career. And that prediction seems to be coming true in a sense because this is easily Gaga's most lukewarm album release year yet. But I like Artpop. I think it's her best album yet, and I understand why a lot of you might hate her image and her persona and her very look-at-me style and publicity stunts, but at least on this LP, Gaga is taking very little high-heeled baby steps in a direction that I've always wanted her to go in. All I've ever wanted Lady Gaga to be is consistent. If you are mentally and personally as whacked as you look, then put out music that lives up to that. And I'm not saying Lady Gaga should put out something avant-garde or anything like that. She's a pop artist. I expect her to put out pop music, but give me pop music with some legitimately great, fantastic instrumentals with some amazing music being written into them. Give me some personality. Give me catchy melodies. Give me a sense of bliss. And that is what I got on here for at least a good chunk of the tracks. And it's funny, there are a lot of professional critics out there right now who are saying that this record is really run-of-the-mill for Lady Gaga, but maybe Lady Gaga's shtick is getting kind of old for some people, because truth be told, it's not like there's much more to her than her shtick. It's not like she's an incredible wordsmith or anything like that. Like on the song Aura, where our first introduction to the chorus is, "Do you want to see me naked, lover? Do you want to peek underneath the covers?" Or the song Dope, where toward the beginning of the song, Lady Gaga is saying, "I fucked up again because I lost my only friend." And then the song Gypsy, where it gets really ridiculous, naming off all these different places. I get the concept of the song and kind of going around and being a bit of a nomad, maybe through how Lady Gaga is always moving in her career and touring, so on and so forth, but toward the end, I'm a gypsy, 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 hey. Then there's the song Donatella, which is kind of a parody of Donatella Versace and a lot of the sort of high-class fashion types out there. And even though there are mentions on this track of being blonde, being a rich bitch, only having eaten a salad all day, asking your gay friends for tanning advice, it feels like the song just does not go far enough to be truly funny or biting or hilarious. Not only that, but the vocal melody on this track and the verses seems so underneath Lady Gaga's chops because she has some serious pipes, and at the end of the day, it only ends up sounding kind of like a Weird Al parody. When it comes to writing lyrics, Lady Gaga just does not have that much tact. However, the fact that she doesn't mince words sometimes is sort of what makes these songs so entertaining. To go back to the song Dope, where we have the refrain, "I need you more than dope, I need you more than dope," where Lady Gaga is just on this huge meatloaf trip. And then there's the song Sex Dreams, which kind of gets me in the mood. What you in the mood for? I'll tell you when you're older. And with Lady Gaga's lyrics on this track, touching yourself when you're thinking of this person with these dirty thoughts in your head, how you and this other individual are convicted felons of thought. The song is just so hypersexual, it's like Madonna's Like a Virgin, except never a virgin. Ever. And then there's the track Swine, where Lady Gaga is straight up calling someone a pig, talking about squealing and screaming herself all over this track. Again, another moment where Gaga is just really at one of her most vocally eccentric zeniths. To hear her singing in such a weird and just over-the-top way is a little refreshing to me. Like on the opener Aura, where again we return to a moment very similar to Born This Way, where we have some Spanish guitar playing, but musically we slide very quickly into what seems like some Middle Eastern vocal melodies over an instrumentation change, and then as the beat kicks in and really gets going on the track, it's like we're getting some jittery French electro house sounds that remind me a lot of Justice. And this very progressive, noisy, abrasive, fidgety EDM sound is pretty consistent throughout the very colorful instrumentals on this thing. And when Aura starts, Gaga's vocals on this thing are just so whacked. I'm not a wandering slave, I'm a woman of choice. Then there is the song Venus, which is essentially this love-fueled intergalactic space travel mission of epic pop proportions, with a very explosive, harmonious chorus and some verses that march in this really militaristic way. And then there's a refrain that comes up later in the track, take me to your planet. A moment that really reminds me of like some 90s era Michael Jackson. This is a really multifaceted track in terms of structure for Lady Gaga, especially with the very tight multi-track vocal harmonies on the back end, which are so colorful and quick to hit that they remind me of like an Of Montreal song. There are other moments where the instrumentals really surprise me, like the trap-influenced beat on the back end of Manicure, or the rock opera-esque instrumentation on the end of Mary Jane Holland. And there are more straightforward tracks on this LP too that I think are just as entertaining just because the song and the melody is so freaking catchy, like G.U.Y. and the disco-fried fashion, which is so freaking enjoyable. I love the groove. I love the fashion. This track is so fun to me, it makes me wish I was a rich socialite piece of shit with nothing to live for other than a coke habit and expensive clothes. I would just blast this song all day. I blast this song all day anyway. However, there are tracks on here that I do not blast all day. I would not blast any day. For example, Jewels and Drugs. A song that I do not get down with based simply on premise. It's a trap rap song. The very quirky instrumental reminds me a bit of Tonight, and I do like the beat here, and I think the chorus here is pretty whacked out. We want your jewels, we want your drugs. And the song even features rap verses from T.I., Too Short, and Twista, but I am not trying to hear T.I. rap about beating a case on a Lady Gaga album. The other feature idea on this LP ruins what could have potentially been the greatest song on this album, the greatest song Lady Gaga has ever done, Do What You Want. The sexiest song on this record. It hits with this very pulsating, thick, heavy, rigid, new wave inspired beat, just really Lady Gaga's voice sounds fantastic on this track. I love the refrain, man. As basic as it is, it just works. Do what you want to my body. And then R. Kelly comes into the picture. And not only is his lyrical contribution to this track incredibly weak, but this is the last guy who you should be giving license to do whatever he wants to your body. And you know why? It's the same reason Lady Gaga has to be careful pronouncing the word party around him. Or else it will sound like potty. He'll pee on you. Oh, he went there. Oh yeah. There are a few softer ballads on this LP that aren't too bad but aren't too exciting either, like the title track, which sort of in a weird way reminds me of a Crystal Castles song if they were totally stripped of reverb and were really made to rely on the vocal melodies of their tracks. And then again there's the song Dope, which goes in that Meatloaf-esque direction, and it's an okay track, but I wish it had a very explosive bat out of hell type ending to kind of finish things off. The track Gypsy sort of goes in that same direction too, with how it opens up with the piano piece and then kicks in with some pop house beats and some Springsteen influences on the vocal melody. But this track just feels sort of redundant to me on this LP. It doesn't really add anything. It feels like, in a way, what Dope should have been. And then there's Applause, which I feel like is a very good single, not Lady Gaga's hottest, but certainly a highlight for me on this album. I love how eccentric she is on the verses here. For me, what makes this song good is a lot of what makes the tracks earlier on this LP so good. Overall, I feel like this album has more positives than negatives for Lady Gaga. For one, the beats, the instrumentals are fantastic. Props to her producers on every single track here. I feel like Lady Gaga is still a great singer. She is certainly facing in a stranger direction on this album with songs that still remain catchy, fun, and have personality, but on the con side, there are a lot of underwhelming tracks on here too, and moments where it feels like Lady Gaga just doesn't go far enough to be interesting. And again, Lady Gaga, when it comes to lyrics, her ideas just seem so half-baked at times. While I do like this album, if this is as art as pop gets, pop has a pretty dismal future, I would say. I'm feeling a strong 6 on this thing. Transition. But if you've given this LP a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And that's it. Anthony Fantano, Lady Gaga, Artpop, forever.